Rosalind Harris is a hardworking waitress juggling two jobs to make ends meet and pay for her college tuition fees. On one particularly busy weekend, she was working her shift at the Washington restaurant. Busboys and poets. However, her day took an unexpected turn when a group of Texan men with conspicuous red hats walked in, instantly drawing attention in the establishment known for its laid-back artistic vibe and as a meeting place for civil rights activists, artists, and poets. Rosalind felt a sense of unease and nervousness as she served them, fearing they might cause trouble. She had experienced difficulties with customers before, but these men appeared more intimidating and unsettling than usual. As time went on, Rosalind began to reconsider her initial apprehensions, realizing she might have unfairly judged them. Despite her reservations, she continued serving them, hoping to avoid any confrontation. Rosalind, a 25-year-old waitress and professional dancer, was using her job to support her college education. She worked tirelessly, and the last thing she wanted was any customer-related drama, especially during such a significant weekend. This particular weekend coincided with two major events in Washington: the inauguration of the 45th president, Donald Trump, and the Women's March. Interestingly, both parties in this story were involved in these events, but their perspectives and affiliations differed. While Rosalind attended the Women's March and held reservations about President Trump, the men in the red hats were attending the inauguration, proudly displaying their support for him. The stage was set for an unexpected encounter between these seemingly opposing groups, as they found themselves sharing a meal at Busboys and Poets. The restaurant fell silent as everyone, including Rosalind, watched the situation unfold with a mixture of curiosity and tension. Upon the group of Texan men entering the restaurant, Rosalind quickly made two assumptions about them. Firstly, she assumed they were from out of town. And secondly, she believed they were in Washington to celebrate the inauguration of the new president. In her view, it seemed that a group of Trump supporters might not be familiar with the left-leaning atmosphere of her cafe, given their casual entrance. Rosalind's initial judgments highlighted a common issue in modern politics: people tend to make a wide range of assumptions about individuals based on their political affiliations. When someone identifies as a Trump supporter, they are sometimes unfairly associated with negative qualities such as bigotry or extremism. However, Rosalind acknowledged that not everyone wearing a Maga hat necessarily fit these stereotypes. Jason White and his friends had indeed traveled all the way from Texas to celebrate the inauguration in the nation's capital. They were excited about the election results and believed that, as Americans, supporting their president was the right thing to do. Jason, a 37-year-old family man with close-knit friendships and a profession as a dentist in his Texas hometown, was an entirely ordinary individual leading a normal life. Despite their normalcy, the red caps they wore drew immediate attention when they entered the establishment. While Rosalind did not mention anything about their caps, Jason quietly suggested to his friends that they remove them while dining at the restaurant. He wanted to avoid giving the impression that they were flaunting their political affiliations, emphasizing that their goal was simply to have lunch. Jason's curiosity about the history of the restaurant led him to strike up a conversation with Rosalind. She gladly shared details about Busboys and Poets, explaining that it was named after poet Langston Hughes, a significant figure in African American literature known for pioneering the jazz poetry form. Hughes held a legendary status as a cultural, social, and political icon. Rosalind provided the group with insight into the unique atmosphere and background of the establishment. After taking their orders, Rosalind allowed the men to enjoy their meal, assuming that their interaction would conclude there. About an hour later, Jason and his friends finished their lunch and left the restaurant, expressing their gratitude and bidding farewell from a distance. Rosalind wished she could have bid farewell to the group properly. But as she arrived at their table to clean up and collect the check, she noticed something unusual. The check was covered in words. And at first, it appeared to be a careless scribble. However, upon closer examination, Rosalind realized it was a personal message intended specifically for her. She picked up the note and began to read. In the first few words, it became clear that this was a heartfelt message from Jason, one of the men in the group. Jason's note expressed sentiments of unity and kindness, emphasizing that despite coming from different cultural backgrounds and holding differing political views, sharing a smile and kindness could bring people together as one nation, Americans. His words deeply moved Rosalind, and the idea of the positive impact a smile could have invigorated her spirit. To Rosalind's astonishment, along with the touching message, the group had left an extraordinarily generous tip. The total bill for their lunch amounted to $72.60. But they had left a tip of $450. Jason hadn't discussed this gesture with his friends. It was a spontaneous act of kindness that he had decided upon after meeting the warm-hearted waitress. Both the heartfelt words and the substantial tip touched Rosalind deeply, and she felt emotional about this unexpected act of generosity. The timing couldn't have been better for her, as she had taken on extra shifts to cover the costs of moving to a new apartment and wasn't sure if she'd have enough funds for upfront expenses. Rosalind acknowledged that she might have been guilty of prejudice as well. And this encounter with Jason and his friends served as a reminder that many Americans seek unity despite their differing political beliefs. Although neither Rosalind nor Jason initially shared their story on social media, it quickly went viral after a co-worker of Rosalind's posted a photo of the receipt on Twitter. Their story captured the attention of millions, making both Rosalind and Jason known to the public. Following the viral sensation, Rosalind surprised Jason with a FaceTime call during an interview. It was their first interaction since their fateful encounter at Busboys and Poets. They had the chance to catch up, reflecting on everything that had transpired since that day. A few weeks later, Rosalind reached out to Jason, and they reconnected. They engaged in friendly debates about their political differences over various dinners, acknowledging their shared passion for their beliefs while respecting each other's opinions. Eventually, Jason asked Rosalind out on a date. Even though there were initial reservations from her friends and family about dating a Republican and Trump supporter, their first major disagreement arose from a controversial political issue, resulting in a heated argument. It prompted both Rosalind and Jason to evaluate whether their relationship could survive such differences. They decided to take a break to reflect on the situation. After several weeks, they met to discuss their feelings. They admitted that they still cared deeply for each other and recognized the special connection they shared. Despite their political disparities, they decided to give their relationship another chance. Rosalind and Jason committed to learning and growing together, valuing their love above political beliefs. Their bond grew stronger as they navigated the challenges, realizing that their connection was more important than any differences in ideology. They made a conscious effort to prioritize their relationship above all else. Jim Bays, a 66-year-old man originally from Washington, found himself feeling quite lonely after relocating to Texas. The prospect of spending Christmas alone was a disheartening one, so he decided to devise a creative solution to his predicament. Jim had moved to Texas in June of 2021 to offer his services as a contractor. He was exceptionally skilled at his trade, so much so that he had established his own contracting company. While business was thriving, Jim's personal life was not experiencing the same level of success. His demanding work schedule kept him away from home for most of the day, leaving him with very few hours of company at his residence. This solitude weighed heavily on him, especially with Christmas approaching. However, Jim's loneliness in the present did not reflect his past. He had been married twice and had 5 children. His second marriage, spanning 19 years, had dissolved due to Jim's inability to prioritize his wife over his work, causing them to grow apart. His first marriage had also ended, primarily due to the stubbornness and headstrong nature shared by both partners, leading to frequent arguments. Now, at 66, Jim was seeking a partner who would accept him for both his personality and his work-driven lifestyle. To achieve this goal, he employed a unique approach. Jim had made numerous attempts at dating since moving to Texas, trying various dating apps and websites, but with limited success. He admitted that he lacked the natural knack for dating strategy, both online and offline, and found it challenging to meet someone who shared his values and interests. Jim recognized that dating had changed significantly since his younger years, where meeting people was more straightforward. In his own words, "It's not like when you were in high school, and it's easy to meet somebody." Fortunately, this resourceful bachelor devised a fresh and clever method to catch the attention of single women in his area. The 66-year-old bachelor, Jim, decided to take a bold approach to his quest for companionship. Being constantly occupied with work and lacking the time to actively search for a partner, he must have thought, "Why not let them come to me?" It's not that Jim was overly selective, but he had a clear image of his ideal woman in mind. He was looking for someone who possessed qualities such as kindness, love, and supportiveness, especially regarding his demanding work schedule. He needed someone who could forgive his occasional mistakes and understand the stress he experienced at work. In his words, he was seeking someone with a comforting presence, a shoulder to lean on or a lap to rest my head. Someone who would say, "Don't worry. You'll get through this, it'll be fine." I'd love to find somebody like that. Jim didn't resort to making social media posts, joining dating sites, placing newspaper ads, or attending speed dating events or other singles gatherings. He simply didn't have the time for those conventional methods. Instead, he opted for a grander idea. The inspiration struck him during one of his drives to a project when he noticed a large advertisement. He thought to himself, "If only I could catch someone's eye like that." Without hesitation, he reached out to an advertising company to explore all the possibilities. With little concern for the associated costs, Jim was filled with pride as he drove past the eye-catching billboard, which now featured his face and a bold message: "Wanted, a good woman." The billboard, positioned high up for all to see, also displayed an invitation for conversations, walks, and mutual acts of kindness, complete with his phone number. Jim believed that the results he hoped to achieve would unquestionably justify the expense. The gigantic billboard was an attention grabber, and Jim was confident that it would help him find the companionship he sought. He envisioned thousands of people seeing his ad daily, with the belief that among them, there must be a good woman willing to respond. All he had to do now was wait for her to make the call. Jim's ingenious billboard idea turned out to be even more successful than he had dared to hope. It didn't attract just one interested candidate, instead, dozens of good women reached out to the high-demand bachelor. This influx of responses meant that Jim had to start making decisions about whom to ask out on dates. In the first month since the billboard went up, Jim secured 5 dates. This level of success surpassed anything his love life had seen in all the years prior. It seemed that Jim's creative approach to self-advertising was paying off handsomely. With 5 different dates scheduled for November, he was no longer facing loneliness. Having 5 potential candidates to spend time with in November also raised hopes of finding a deep connection with one of them. Jim's wish was to enjoy a romantic Christmas dinner with that special someone. And he looked forward to the possibilities that lay ahead.